everyone, and welcome to Style American. It is a pleasure to have with us here today Gia Noortas, who is the producer and director of the movie My Husband's Wife. Hi, Gia, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm great, and it's really wonderful to have you here at the Biography Festival, and you are here with your movie, and tell me everything about it and how did the idea for this movie started.
Well, first of all, I have to say that I did produce the movie and I co-directed it with my colleague from Russia. It's a very international movie because I myself live and work in the United States of America, but the movie was shot in Kazakhstan, so it was my first producing experience in Kazakhstan, which is my native country. And the crew consisted of American, Kazakhstan, and Russian people. But nevertheless, it is a movie that's officially Kazakhstan production, and now it completed 9 weeks of theatrical release in Kazakhstan and also in Kyrgyzstan, which is a country that is borders directly Kazakhstan. And now we're negotiating, the international rights with different distributors, and we began our festival circle with Biography.
Okay.
Yeah,
awesome.
here in the beautiful Bologna.
And actually, talking about the concept of this movie, where did the idea from it came about?
Well, unfortunately, it's a very well-known phenomenon in my region, not just Kazakhstan. And a lot of families have been affected by the social phenomenon where wealthy men not just have affairs when they hit the middle-age crisis, but they actually form parallel families. And yes, it's plural. It's not just one parallel family. It could be more than 2, 3, 4. I don't know. It depends on the person. And what's interesting is that they just use religion as an excuse. They use, Christianity as well as Muslim religion as well as anything else. What inspired me is the story of my cousin, who was still very young. She was only 45 at the time. Beautiful, vibrant woman with 3 kids. And she found herself in a situation where she found out that her husband unfortunately had a parallel family. And when we were all telling her to leave, she decided that she wants to fight and keep him. She didn't want to keep the parallel polygamous relationship. And pretty shortly after she passed away, and the circumstances of her death, very strange. I don't want to disclose that. It's not a suicide. But the matter of fact that the young, vibrant woman died in a matter of 24 hours. So it's not the only story. I've heard horrific stories where, sometimes legal wives become victims. Sometimes the the other wives become victims. Then also the unofficial statistics are that those type of relationships, they last usually no more than 2 years.
Right.
Now think about all these single moms, because they have children in those so-called marriages, So now they're, without the husband, without child support, then they're single moms.
Yeah.
So
it's a tragedy on both sides.
Of course,
I understand.
Of course, yeah. And honestly, I don't take sides. Although, of course, my heart goes for the legal wives who live with their husbands for, 10, 20, 30 years, and they have to deal with that. But on the other hand, how can I be against those, and kind of like judge those young women? Because, let's face it, society brings us to be who we are very often. And if that is what they think their survival is,
Yeah.
you know, then maybe we should think about it. Maybe we should change something within the society, so it is no longer an option for them. So they have better options. And don't get me wrong, Kazakhstan society is very well educated. It's not elite literal society. It's a very high literal society. People have high level of education usually, and there are, you know, there's no predominant religion really. So there's all kinds of religious
There is
and national
from this point
background.
of view. Yeah.
So it puzzled me when I was thinking, so what really forces people to do something like this? And I think any society that actually has super wealthy people versus very poor people kind of opens up to those kind of opportunities. So when I was making research before we actually produced the movie, I have found out about things that are very similar in other societies. This, social phenomenon actually takes place in many different countries as well, unfortunately. Not only in the countries that are of a similar background, like, for example, Turkey or Kyrgyzstan, where that is also a very well-known phenomenon, but also in China, for example. And we actually got an endorsement from my Chinese friend, who is written and had done a lot of work on women's empowerment, Dr. Mao. And I've gotten endorsement from Turkish leaders of, women's empowerment movement. But it's also actually often takes place in a different form, of course, in the West as well. I'm not going to name the websites, but there's certain websites that are very popular in the US, Canada, Australia, in the UK as well, from what I know because I saw them, where oftentimes married wealthy men look for young girls.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's slightly different because their wives are not aware. So the wives probably oftentimes just, have no idea that they are in fact in, polygamous relationship.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that regard, it's of course blissful, blindness and not knowing of the situation. But in Kazakhstan, it's taken, and in those regions, it's taken the form where I think it's even more tragic because the legal wives struggle with the situation when they do, in fact, find out about it. They either have to face the fact that they divorce the husband, and for the most part they lose it all. There are some rare examples when they don't, but oftentimes men keep titles.
Because the problem is that they financially depend from the husbands.
And so that presents real tragic situations.
Yeah, of course.
Oftentimes. Yeah.
Of course. But as you were saying, it's really an international problem because, it can have, say, some other shapes, some other forms, but definitely it is an international problem.
It's a sugar daddy thing
in
the West.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a sugar daddy where, the younger girls, when they knowingly go in those type of relationships, and oftentimes those men are married.
Absolutely.
So what kind of society are we to support this type of thinking, where girls no longer dream of finding the true love? They dream of finding a sugar daddy.
Yeah.
It's something to think about.
It's very sad, even from an ethical point of view, of course. Going actually really to the core of the movie, talking about the production of it. So just tell me about the different steps that you were actually facing, the pre-production, the writing of the movie. So and then actually shooting it. So just.
So the idea came in 2013, and that's when we registered it. And then it took me about a year and a half to find a proper writer for the story. It just happened so it was my Russian colleague who later also co-directed it with me. And so the movie is actually co-financed like 50-50 by the American company, which is my company, and also the Kazakhstan private investor. So the challenge was, for me personally as a producer, because I have never shot the movie in Kazakhstan, so I was a little bit, even though this is my home country, I wasn't sure how we're going to do it, and so who we're going to take on as, the partners over there, how do we build the crew. As it turns out, by law, we had to open up actual LLC over there,
right?
And so on and so forth. So there were a lot of technical specifics as far as shooting movie in Kazakhstan. But when we got everything going, it was actually an amazing flow. And now, like I said, it was a very international production, which was quite fascinating, and a very disciplined professional crew. We shot movie in a record short time, in 16 days.
Wow.
Yeah. I hardly slept.
Sure you did.
Yeah. And and then we brought it back to LA, and that's where we did the post-production. Yeah.
So it's really an international movie, also from this point of view.
That's
really fantastic. Actually, when you were there, on set, trying to decide, which kind of, shots you were going to do, which kind of angles of the camera you were going to use, technically, which was, say, the style that you really wanted to give to this movie?
Oh, that's a very good question. Of course, I wanted it to be... it's a social drama, but and I know we picked up a heavy subject matter, but I didn't want it to be a depressing movie.
Good, yeah.
So I believe we made a beautiful, sexy movie, but it takes those turns where... people, when they watch it, I think sometimes they don't realize that some of the things, they're right there on the surface, but you don't really think about it. So we've taken a story of one family and what these people had to go through. And I think through showing the journey of these three characters, and also their children, and also their parents, I think I'm hoping what happened is people watched the movie and they looked at their own, lives, and they hopefully ask themselves those right questions. Am I living by the right values?
Right, yeah.
Am I contributing to the right values in this society? Can I start with myself? And so on and so forth. As far as the look of the movie, it's beautifully shot. It shows off the most beautiful parts of my hometown, the beautiful city of Almaty by the Altai Mountains. It's a gorgeous region. It shows the beauty of the people. But when we were doing color correction, we decided to give it a little bit of a dark shade. So it's not just this beautiful picture, but
you can see the drama.
Yes.
I understand.
Exactly.
Yes. You were also performing in the movie, and this, I think, makes it biggest challenge from one point of view, because you are directing and of course performing in it and producing. So so how is it actually to be so much inside a movie from different point of views?
You mean from the acting side?
Acting, yes.
Well, I wasn't gonna direct it because I had a director.
Yes.
However, it was mutually decided that it would be great that we direct together because he is from Russia, so some of the aspects of our culture he's not familiar with.
Right.
And sometimes when you work with actors, it's absolutely necessary. And so that's why we made that decision before we started shooting the movie. The performance, my role was very demanding because there were a lot of emotional scenes, and there's a growth of my character, so it wasn't one-dimensional role. So I knew that I had to give a lot of myself in order to perform well, which I did, hopefully, but people seem to like my performance. It was very challenging because, like I said, I had to wear a lot of hats. However, because my crew was so professional, and also super disciplined, and we had very talented people, I was very lucky with that. So I think that's what enabled me to kind of be able to manage all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And when the movie actually came out in Kazakhstan, it was in the movie theaters for 9 weeks. Am I right?
Yes.
So how was this for you, like, to know that your movie was so successful with the audience there?
Well, first of all, when it came out, I probably didn't sleep at all. I was so nervous. I was so stressed out. I was waking up very early in the morning, looking what's going on with my movie, and so on and so forth. Of course, but at some point I was able to relax about it, and I have to say it was actually officially called the most talked about feature of the year because it made a huge resonance in the society. There were people who loved the project, and I've received a lot of love letters from people. Yeah. However, there were also people who, let me put it this way, don't like me very much.
Well, that happens.
Because they are the ones in that situation, and it's not always very nice to see yourself on screen, meaning, you know what I'm saying, like to see someone who resembles you in real life on screen. So I have had those remarks as well. Like I have had girls who are the other wives approach me in public restaurants and so on and so forth.
Oh, wow.
And confront me.
Yeah.
And I just had to keep a straight face and say, this is an art.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for watching the movie.
Well, I think that happens all the times. Like, people can agree or disagree with the movie, and
especially when subject matter is this controversial.
Yeah, of course. And you're telling the truth about the story, and some people might feel in the shoes of a certain character. Other people might feel actually in the shoes of the other character. Now you're going around for festivals, like promoting My Husband's Wife, and we're here at the biography film in Bologna, and I know that there is going to be very soon another festival coming up for you, and how is it now to actually be in this environment of the festival, like confronting yourself with different people? And
I love it.
Yeah.
I have to say, well, first of all, I love Italy. I really do love Italy. Coming here was incredible. I have met a lot of professionals, and I have now also ideas for co-production between Kazakhstan and Italy.
Awesome.
And that could be very, very interesting, I think. Not to mention beautiful, because both countries are gorgeous. Hanging out with fellow professionals is always something very inspiring, because those are creative people, and they always are full of interesting ideas and some projects that we share with each other. It's wonderful. Going on to the festival circle is very exciting, because this is our way of showing our independent features to the world, and hopefully get distribution deals and so on and so forth. So that's very exciting. And I'm glad it began here.
Yeah, and I'm glad for you.
Yeah.
So, what would you like actually, to tell to our audience about my husband's wife? And, maybe you can invite them also to check your website.
Oh, yes, of course. Please check it out. It's www.myhusbandswifemovie.com. Don't forget about the movie, because otherwise it'll show something else. You can see a couple of trailers there. You can see press information, press quotes, also endorsements from different leaders of women's rights and women's empowerment movements, which we're getting more soon. And whatever the latest news are going to be there. We also have a Facebook page. We have lots of following over there, so I always make sure that it's being updated with the latest news. This interview is going to be there. Yes, of course.
So, Gia, thank you so much for joining us today, and it was really, really an honor and a pleasure to meet you here at the Biography Film Festival.
Thank you so much. Thank you.